Are you looking to find the perfect hybrid for you? Whether you want power, you want control, you want spin, you want all core, you want the biggest sweet spot, I have the top 5 hybrid paddles that I have played with, and I'm going to compare them all. I'm going to break it down by power, spin, pop, and control so you can find the best hybrid for you. So stick around and let's get right into it. I want to break it all down for you so you can find the best fit for you. So let me just introduce what my top 5 are real quick, and then we'll get right into the comparison. We have the Neonic Flow Prime X, we have the Honolulu J2Ti, and we also have the Honolulu J2K. So I actually have 6 in the J2K kind of made them one. They're a little bit different, but play similarly. And then we have the Chorus Fire, the Spartus Olympus, and the Vatic Saga Flash short handle. So first, let's get into how they break down on the stats. We'll get into weight setups and all that good stuff. And if you do have a moment to take your time and smash the subscribe, really helps support the channel. But let's get into how those stats break down and how they compare. All right, so let's set the table here with what these paddles all cost, and I'll give you the price after the discount code AllDriveNoDrop because some of them have different discount percentages. So let's just look at the price after the discount so we compare apples to apples. The lowest on the list is the Flow Prime X at $126, and we go all the way up to $180 with the Olympus. So not like a huge spread in cost, especially with everything from the Flow Prime to the Fire HX, really bunched up there within, you know, $25-ish. The Olympus really being the outlier, but not too much when you start thinking about a lot of the $200 paddles. And then we get into the swing weights. The Olympus comes in at the lowest swing weight, with the Saga going up to the 115. And if you're not familiar with swing weight, that's just basically telling you how much effort you need to swing these paddles. And all these are good ranges. The Olympus is actually pretty low for a hybrid. I do think it plays better with weight. We'll get into all the weight setups and that talk. The Saga comes in at the highest swing weight. And so basically the lower the swing weight, the more room you have for customization. The twist weight gives you an idea of how stable a paddle is going to be, and sometimes it gives you an idea of how big a sweet spot it's going to be. I will say that J2K with the highest twist weight is definitely the most stable paddle on this list, as well as the J2Ti is definitely second place. And then the rest of them, we'll get into that, but I believe that they're all of the same stability with those bottom 4, except I would give the Saga Flash the highest stability of those 4, even though the Fire has a higher twist weight. I do think the Saga Flash has a bigger sweet spot. It plays a little bit more stable than the Fire HX. So let's jump in to what everyone wants to know: the power and the pop and the spin. I know everyone wants to know which paddle is the most powerful, which one gets the most spin. So I'm going to work my way through the list: power, pop, spin, control. I did all of these tests recently, so I went through and I hit 10 serves to arrive at my power number, took the average of those 10 serves, did these all at the same time so that I was in the same conditions with all of these, and I was, you know, the same day. And then for the pop, I sit there, I do 10 punches. So you do 10 of those punches, get the average speed with the radar gun, and then those are the numbers that you see on the screen. So for the power, the Olympus has the most power, which is pretty good, having the low swing weight and having the most power of my top hybrid paddles here. I would say that it is one of the least stable in the stock form due to it being, you know, they're really optimizing that swing weight and they sacrifice a little stability there. So that's the one knock on the Olympus there. It does suffer a little bit on the stability, but I do have a great weight setup that fixes those problems. But if you are looking to play your paddle stock, I'll get to that. Next, we have the Saga Flash right behind it, Fire HX, Flow Prime X, J2K, and J2Ti. Really, we're looking at, you know, not any of these are going to be like the lowest power output possible. The J2K and J2Ti, definitely you can finish with them. They just are the lowest on the list, but they also are the most stable and ready to play stock. Pop. I have definitely tested these quite a bit, and I've come to the conclusion the Fire HX is the most poppy of these paddles. definitely the stiffest of all the paddles as well, so it just kind of makes sense. I think it gets the least dwell time of all the paddles on the list, and that would make sense. The ball's popping off really fast off that paddle. It can be a little hard to get accustomed to control it. Olympus is next, and the Flow Prime, Saga Flash, J2K, J2Ti. We'll note that the Saga Flash is definitely the most unique on this list, being, you know, lower on the pop but higher on the power. You don't get that profile too often. Spin. So spin, I wouldn't worry about spin on any of these. I will note the Fire HX, it does get great spin, even though that it doesn't get the best dwell time, and it's not that gritty, but that probably means the spin is going to last longer because it's not relying on that super gritty texture to generate the spin. So good note there. The J2Ti definitely gets the most dwell time of all these paddles, and I think that's why it helps generate the most spin. So that is one note. They all get really good spin though, really not a problem. And then when we move into control, J2K, J2Ti, those are gonna rank number one for control for different people. So for me, J2K is still going to be number one. J2Ti is going to be number one for you if you really want like the least amount of pop, you want that softer, springier feel, then the J2Ti would definitely be the pick for you. Just both are super stable. The reason I put the J2K over the J2Ti is because of how stable it is. You know, J2Ti is stable too, but the J2K is just in stock form, just hands down the best hybrid for sweet spot and stability and control. There's no match right now for it. You know, going down the list, I would say, like, where do we start getting worried about stock form control? I would say right in the Fire HX and the Olympus, where I'd be like, yeah, if you don't have good control, you really need to add weight to these two. The top four, with the, you know, Saga Flash, Flow Prime, J2Ti, J2K, you could play those stock, no problem. Even if you have you know, not the best control game, but the Fire HX and the Olympus definitely need weight if you lack control. So let's move on. I'll talk about each of these paddles a little bit individually. I will tell you my weight setup and who I think fits each paddle. Okay. Before we get into the weight setup, I use Bodhi tungsten tape for all my paddles and the Bodhi grips. So if you want to save 15% on those, and you want to use the same grips and weight that I'm using, check out that in the description. So let's get into it. For the Spartus Olympus, which is, you know, one of the paddles I've played with the most on the list, I use 9 inches of the 0.5 gram per inch strip on the Olympus. And I'm doing this because I think that, you know, it lacks a little weight, especially in the top. And I think it just needs that extra stability all along, you know, where you're going to be hitting it. I want it spread out. I don't want it too concentrated up here because it would raise the swing weight too much. And I think this just makes it the best performance possible. So, you know, you got 4.5 grams on each side. For me, it doesn't impact the maneuverability. I will show, because a lot of people always ask me, where would you put it if you just had these 3 gram? And I do recommend these enhanced balance pods. These are great if you just want pre-cut strips. I would put the 3 grams right here. So like kind of, you know, at the U and down. I'll put that 3 grams right there. I would want it, you know, kind of in the middle there on the sides, 3 grams on each side. Just because I think that you don't want it too low, you want it a little bit higher, and you could try it at the corners, but I really think in the middle would be the best spot. This one has a great feel with the weight added. You know, you can pocket the ball pretty well, has great spin, has amazing finishing power, and then it has, you know, it has great pop. Like not too high of pop where you can't control it, you can't learn to control it. It has just enough pop where those counter punches are great, but you can still get great resets and you can still control the ball. So if I were looking to get the, you know, most aggressive paddle on this list for the combination of power and pop, I would get the Olympus while keeping in mind you are sacrificing some control. So let's move on next to the J2K and J2Ti. Okay, so for the J2K and J2Ti, I kind of included them as a combo because they're the same construction, except they have different facing materials. But that different facing material really changes things. So the J2K, the Kevlar is just in the peel ply and everything just makes it a little bit more stable. It's a little bit adds more weight, and so they do concentrate a little bit of weight here. It just seems like that's, you know, to optimize that twist weight. So I put 1 gram per inch strips starting at the middle of that W in the sword going up. Same thing here. I would put the 3 grams if I was just doing it here. I'd put that 3 grams right in the middle if I was going to add those pre-cut strips. The J2K is just the best all-around all-court paddle you can get for a hybrid. In my opinion, it plays super well. It has enough power and pop to get the job done with adding this weight. The power is definitely enough to finish the point. And then you have just the biggest sweet spot and the most stability of any hybrid on the market. So that's why I like this so much. Obviously, the price is amazing too at $135. So definitely recommend this. If you're just not sure what you want in a hybrid, this just does everything well all around. Now the J2Ti does a lot of things the same as the J2K, but it has a softer feel. It has the, you know, the softest feel on this list. Still has really good stability, and it still has good finishing power. Power's just slightly below the J2K because it's a lighter paddle, and it comes in at a lower swing weight. So, and that can be all made up with weight. I do the same thing. I add that 4 grams, 1 gram per inch strip from the middle of the W up here. You could add more if you wanted. Same thing, 3 grams in the middle if you're using the pre-cut strip. So J2K, J2Ti, excellent paddles. If you're looking for a little less pop and more customization and that softer feel, the J2Ti, or if you want the ultimate stability and control with a little bit more pop and power, the J2K. Can't go wrong with either of those two. Let's move on to the Neonic Flow Prime X. Okay, Neonic Flow Prime X. I'm not using as much weight, still using the 0.5 gram per inch strip here, 5.5 inches on each side. Doesn't need as much weight as the Olympus. This one is just an all around, like just above all court. So if you were thinking like, hey, I want a little bit more power and pop than J2K, then this is it. You're just kind of sacrificing sweet spot and control with it and a little bit of stability. That's where the J2K and the J2Ti outperform the Flow Prime X. But if you were like, hey, I like the idea of the J2K and J2Ti, but I just want a little bit more offensive capability, and this one is, you know, on the softer side for a thermoform paddle, you know, has a little bit of different feel than the J2Ti, not as like springy, but still like a good pocketing, good dwell time. So the Neonic Flow Prime X would be, for those reasons, you would get it over the J2K, J2Ti. And then if you didn't want as much pop and you want a little bit more control than the Olympus and the Fire HX, then you would go for that. Okay, we have the Chorus Fire HX here. And this paddle is very interesting. I would say it's you know, very distinct from the other paddles on this list because it is on the stiffer side. I think if you pick this up and played it stock, you might not like it. It really needs weight to fully allow you to use the capabilities of this paddle. So use 8 grams of the 0.5 gram per strip tungsten tape, going from this bottom corner here up to just where that curve starts. Now look, when you add this tape, first the paddle stock is really poppy and it has okay power, right? But it just doesn't have enough like mass, I think, up here in the sweet spot to really carry through the ball as well as you would like. And then also the off-center shots don't feel the best. With this weight, and then you can get like some silicone weights to help dampen vibrations, which I don't think you need. I think you add this weight, it is fine. So if you want the poppiest paddle on this list, if you're looking for something that really, so like the ball does come off very consistently, at least dwell time, all the paddles on this list, if that's something you want, that's something just, you know, the ball pops off fast, if that's how you like to play, and it really gives you a great connection to the ball, then the Fire HX would be the pick on this list if that's what you're looking for. Also, doesn't come super gritty. They really try to even out their grit, so I think that the grit will probably last, you know, some of the longest on this list, just because they tried to keep those peaks and valleys pretty consistent and not go for like super tall peaks, which is what you get when you get that gritty feel. So Fire HX, one of the more unique options on this list, and that is my weight setup for it. Let's move on to the Vatic Saga Flash, the final paddle on the list. So the Vatic Saga Flash is very interesting because it is the only non-thermoform paddle on this list. It is, you know, a unibody with perimeter edge foam, but it has a wide 10mm cell size for the core. This gives it power, but it gives it less pop. So if that's something you're interested in, you still want that finishing power, but you want a lot more touch around the net, then this is it. And this is the one that's kind of like borderline. It's definitely good stock, but I think it needs a little bit more weight to get that little bit more finishing power that people are looking for. I'm doing 7 inches of the 0.5 gram per inch strip of tungsten tape. You can really play around with the length. I start at the bottom corner, start going all the way up with that 7, well, not all the way up, but going up from the bottom corner. And then if you're looking to do the 3 gram balance pod, just go in the middle. That's where I prefer it. This is the highest swing weight on the list, so if you want to just add a little bit at the corners here, I understand. If you are sensitive to that swing weight, you don't want to raise it too much, then that would be where I would go. But definitely an interesting combination of the lower pop, higher power, and then you get a really good pocketing and you get really good dwell time on this paddle. So if you're looking for that profile, the Vatic Flash, and this is the short handle. It does come in a longer handle. This is 5.3 inches. It does come in a 5.75 inch handle. I have not tried that version, but I imagine it would have a smaller sweet spot and you might get a little bit more power, but you would have less facing on the paddle. But this is the short handle. That everything I say applies to the short handle here. So it's the last one on my list. Let's wrap up in the conclusion. Okay, so those were my top 5, really top 6 hybrid paddles, and a lot of recent releases lately that made the list. And you know, when I take a look at the paddles that have come out this year, it really has been a hybrid and wide body season. I was really shocked when I started going through my paddles and realized there weren't as many elongated releases as I thought. So, you know, if we would have done this last year, we would have been, you know, probably only had 5 hybrids to choose from. Now we have a ton to choose from. Those were my top hybrid paddles. If you have any questions, you're looking for any comparisons, drop it in the comments. Let me know. And please smash that subscribe button. It helps me grow the channel, helps support the channel. It helps me keep doing what I'm doing. As always, thank you very much for watching, and go play some pickleball.